YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. So, I noticed that there was this tweet that's kind of like going around that all the top creators and a lot of people are just debating about all over Twitter. It could be on other platforms as well, but that's just where I've been seeing it at for the last couple of days. And usually on this channel, whenever I see something like that, I tend to try to give my own perspective on it. And I've said on this channel before, and I'll say it once again for the people that are new here. Uh, Whenever I have like a rule for something, it has to be fair. I try to be as fair as humanly possible. I'm a human being, so sometimes I can be biased on certain things, but for the most part, I try to be as fair as humanly possible. So basically, if I say that there's a rule like healers have the right to go on strike, that applies to everyone else. Tanks, if you feel like you're being done dirty or wrong or whatever, you get to go on strike. DPS, if you feel like you're not getting what you should be getting or whatever the case is, you're allowed to go on strike, and that applies to other things as well. So I've said plenty of times before that as a flex player, I feel like being a flex player is extremely important. And you have to forgive this gameplay. I wasn't recording through OBS earlier, so I had to go back through and record the gameplay for this specific, just because this is going to apply to what I'm talking about. So I had to go back through my history and replay it. I don't like usually doing that because it's got the red over the names and the bars and all that stuff. Don't really prefer it. Plus, you can't really see chat and stuff like that. But for this one, I had to make an exception just because, like I said, I forgot to record this one earlier. But it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And I like to also let you know that when I'm telling you something, I'm not just saying it. Because a lot of people will show you something that looks really cool in the the firing range or whatever, or the practice range. But then when you actually try to apply it in the real world, it doesn't necessarily work out the way you want it to. So that's just something that I want to go ahead and get out of the way. But like I said, with this clip that's going around, I don't want to post it because I don't know how sharing other people's content. I mean, it's not necessarily like it's a video that they uploaded to YouTube, but it is someone else's gameplay. If they want to monetize it or whatever, I don't want to have to deal with that down the road. I don't have any strikes on this channel, and I would like to avoid that. But I'll just go ahead and describe it to you. It's very simple. I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with it before. They've either been the one dishing it out or they've been on the receiving end. It's basically a cloak and dagger coming out of spawn, and there's a Black Panther that immediately, within like a second, just marks him with a couple of his arrows, or not arrows, but spears, and then deletes them. And this all happens within a second. And a lot of people are debating this. You have a lot of healers that are like, well, how exactly am I supposed to counter that? What am I supposed to do? Then you have a lot of people that I saw Necros. He was one of the people. He was basically just like, there's a million things you could do. And that's what a lot of other players have said. And there seems to be this misconception with healers that, and I can say this because that's what I started the game out as. I have more time played as healers than anything else, but the next amount of time that I have is on Spider-Man. So I've seen it from both sides, and I also play tank as well. I love to play Thor and a couple other Penny and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I've seen everything from every different angle. It's not like I just no life one particular character or main or insta-lock anything. I usually try to flex and see what the team needs, and then I just go with that. I have a few characters from each role that I'm extremely comfortable with, and have lords for most of them, the characters that I usually use outside of my tanks. My tanks are all very close to being lord, but they're like right there in Centurion or whatever. So in this clip, you can see I'm not watching the gameplay. I've already recorded it. I'm just going to be talking over it, and I'm not watching it right now, so I might be a little bit behind or ahead or whatever. So in this gameplay, come out, everything's normal. This team, we started out, everything was going kind of bad at first, and I will say it's because of the distraction of the Spider-Man initially. So I think it was taking us a second. Plus, I think some people had to change out some characters or something. I can't remember exactly. But nonetheless, though, we were having a hard time capturing the point immediately. It kind of seemed like it was going to be a really rough game for us, and things weren't going to work out the way they should. But I'm hard-headed, and I don't quit. It's not even in my vocabulary. So, stuck it out, kept going with it. But as soon as we come out, I can immediately hear Spider-Man shooting his webs. I immediately hear whether he's web swinging or he's actually shooting it. See, that's kind of the point that I want to make about why it's really important for people to play other characters, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to say I know a lot of people, they feel very connected to roles, and they feel very connected to characters. And I don't know if that's just how it is with hero shooter type games, or if it's because it's the Marvel IP and people tend to, get wrapped up in, I really like this character or whatever, so I'm going to play this all the time. But it's extremely important for you to play other characters. Before I played Spider-Man, yeah, I could, sleep him as Mantis or do different things and stuff like that. Excuse me, I just had a sip of water. But I could do things to kind of counter him, but I didn't fully understand how his abilities worked. It was just kind of this thing where you might get hit by one of his web trackers or spider trackers, and you would see the little icon over your head, and then you're just kind of freaking out, like, oh, where's he at? Is he about to come in on me, flying on me or whatever, so there was that. But once I started to play Spider-Man, and then especially once I became Lord with him, it became this thing where it's like you are inside of his head. You understand fully what he can do, what his timeouts are, how he's going to respond and react to things. And like I said, as someone who plays Spider-Man regularly and fully understands him and loves to play him, I know exactly how a Spider-Man is going to think. Every character has strengths and weaknesses. Spider-Man he's going to come for the back line. That's just what Spider-Man do. What a lot of dive characters, or their whole entire point is they're supposed to take out the healers. So in this case, he goes after the Invisible Woman. I hear it. I immediately turn around, and because he's not going for me, I don't necessarily need to do anything to him immediately. I go to heal the other healer. And that's another thing too. As healers, you should just kind of be under the mindset that, or of the mindset that other players on the team are busy doing whatever they're doing. The tanks are tanking, DPS are busy trying to put damage on the other players, etc. So you have to think it's nice if someone's going to come and save you, but you have to think that like probably people aren't going to come and save you or help you right away immediately in that short period of time that it takes a Spider-Man to, and this applies to Black Panther, Iron Fist, anything else. So you as healers, you need to try to heal each other. And I know that's not always going to be something that happens, especially if you're playing with randoms, but as a leader, you should always try to lead by example. I'm not saying you guys necessarily are or aren't. I have faith and hope that you are or can become one, and that's why I'm making this video. But at the same time, you should be trying to heal each other in situations like that. Then immediately attack the person that is attacking you, the diver. You know, just like they say, the old saying, you know, when the hunter becomes the hunted. That's how you should be making divers feel. When they come to the back line and they try to attack you, flip the switch and immediately attack them. You know, don't make yourself prey. Be the, you know, well, I mean, you guys know what, I'm not going to say that because then jokes will come in, but you get what I'm saying though, right? It's much better to be the hunter than the hunted. And just because you're a healer does not mean you do not have adequate tools at your disposal. Every character has something that makes them like annoying to a diver if they're used properly. As Spider-Man, it's extremely hard to get Rockets and Jeffs because they have really high and quick mobility and can do a lot of weird stuff. Jeff gets to go underground, and yeah, you can get him sometimes like that, but it's a lot harder to, especially with the fact that once he goes underground, he's constantly healing. Rocket can heal himself while he's just firing off, and he can climb up pretty much any surface just like Spider-Man can, but he does it much quicker, and he also gets his dash twice. So, you know, same thing with like Mantis. Mantis has the ability to buff herself, give herself healing. There's a lot of different things. She does far more damage than Spider-Man. So if you hit your shots with her, you can actually take him out. Same thing with sleeping him once he comes in. He's going to eventually come in for the web grab and try to pull you in, or, you know, be pulled into you to do his move, sleep him. And these are things I know a lot of people will say, well, all this stuff happens in a very short period of time. That is what's going to separate you from the lower player individuals, from the medium player individuals to the higher player, is practicing these things over and over again. You're not going to get it right away, but from practice over time, I have faith that you guys can get it. So, you know, the whole thing that I was saying is that in this gameplay, you see he keeps trying to come, but eventually he ends up switching from Spider-Man. And I can't remember who he switched to. I think it was like Punisher or Namor or some. I don't know who he switched to. But the point of the story is that eventually, after him trying to come for me and the other healer and it not working, and that's another big part too, is that as a Spider-Man player, as a dive player, there is a lot of pressure on you to do whatever it is you're trying to do. If your team isn't getting value from you and you're a Spider-Man, they are going to call you out. I have never been called out so many times. Even if I have the most eliminations, people are going to be like, why is their backline still alive? That should never be a thing when you're a Spider-Man, a Black Panther, or an Iron Fist. People are going to expect that you're constantly taking care of that backline, getting the healers out of the way, and then slowly working your way up to the DPS, and then helping them finish off the tanks. And that's just, I don't really know what that is or why people have such a problem with Spider-Man or any dive characters really, and why they get so much hate. But, you know, I mean, there's a couple of different reasons, but regardless, though, the point that I'm making is that, like, you shouldn't feel as if just because you're a healer that it's all hopeless. No, when you're Cloak and Dagger, you can blind a Spider-Man and you pretty much have like auto aim when you're in Cloak. I mean, it's not necessarily auto aim, but you can just spray in his general area, where Spider-Man has to be a lot more meticulous. He gets 5 shots with his web trackers. He has to hit those, and then he has to get in close. So that's to your advantage. Same thing with Sue. You can go invisible. You can put a orb right in front of your face so that when he gets in, he's gonna have damage done to him. Use your teammates to be able to put a shield and play around that shield, because it's going to heal you, but it's also going to stop him from being able to put trackers down on you and stuff. And you have to be aware of what your enemy is doing. You have to understand your enemy so that you can think like your enemy. When you have no idea what your enemy's like, you have like an idea of their abilities, but you don't know the cooldowns. You don't understand like how that that person is going to play that character, what the most efficient way to play that character is, you're constantly going to be wondering. And when you're wondering, that's taking time out of what it is that you have going on. And, this gameplay, like I said, it starts out a little bit rocky, but that's how it is a lot of times. You're playing with randoms. You don't understand who's playing what or how they're going to play, how aggressive they are, how aggressive they're not, what's going on, how the other healer is going to respond, whatever. But spoiler alert, at the end of the video, which I will leave the gameplay up if I end up not covering voice wise the whole entire gameplay, but I ended up getting 40k healing on this one, which was more than both the enemies and twice as much as the healer on our team. And that's not to say like, oh, I'm the best guy on the world. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm simply saying is that it is possible to win, and it is possible to have a lot of eliminations. I think I was 27, 9, and 38 as far as eliminations, deaths, and assists. So. And I think I was MVP for a big part of the game until the Star-Lord ended up taking it toward the end. Nonetheless, though, like I was saying, you have to stop thinking with and like I said, this applies for everyone. A lot of people like to say that healers have a victim type of mindset. They just sit back and they complain. Prove them wrong. Show them that that's not the case. And like I said, the moment that you change your mindset and you stop relying on someone else to try to help you or save you in a situation, you'll see that it just opens up a lot more doors. Just really think about the fact that, like I said, even as a Spider-Man, there are times when I thought like, oh, look at this Mantis in the back line minding her business. This is going to be easy pickings. I go to pull in on her. She turns around, puts me to sleep instantly, buffs herself, couple of headshots. I'm done for. Same thing with a Sue Storm. You get really close, boom, they go invisible, and you're like, oh my God. I was so close to getting him. Same thing with Jeff. Same thing with Rocket. Loki. Loki was made to counter dives. He can press one button and immediately have his little lamps up or whatever they're called, and be invincible for a short period of time. Or he can switch. You'll get him one shot and then he switches to another clone or whatever. And sometimes Spider-Man does get lucky because there's this kind of like weird bug where like when people are right about to, let's say you're Sue Storm and you're about to go invisible, if he's already in the motion of grabbing you and coming in on you or whatever, or webbing you, he'll kind of like wherever you jump to or go to, even with Loki when he teleports sometimes, it'll go to the other character. But that's kind of like rare. That's not the norm. A lot of times you get really close to getting an elimination and they end up using whatever it is that they have in their arsenal to be able to avoid you or whatever. So like I said, I really recommend that, even though I know a lot of you, because I see it in the comments all the time, you're like, oh, it's Spider-Man, I can't stand him. Well, he's banned most of the time. Well, what about the times when he's not banned? What about the times when you're in that situation, you have no other option? What are you going to do? Just sit there and take it? I'm not. No, I'm going to fight back. I don't care what role I'm playing. You're not about to sit here and just, and even if you're just not that good with countering them in that particular role, switch to another one. The whole point is to make him switch. Like I was saying before, there's a lot of pressure on dive characters to really do whatever it is they're supposed to be doing, which is diving you. And if they're not diving you and it's not being effective, people on their team are going to start telling them to switch. And God forbid they don't switch and they stick it out because they have ego and pride and they're just like, I'm Spider-Man, I'm about to get you. Well, the whole time their team is going to be arguing. And you know what happens when an enemy team starts arguing? You've pretty much, it's a W at that point. Because the amount of time that they're spending arguing, they're not giving call outs. They're not patting each other on the back. Yeah, I watched, I don't know if any of you guys remember Brain Games. It was a show that used to come on where they showed like, random stuff where, people, they would do things and it would show, how they responded or little tricks for your brain and all that kind of stuff. There was an episode where they had these people that were trying to play this game. It was like not like a board game, but it was that game where you have to put the little like shaped pieces in or whatever, and if you don't do it in a certain time, it buzzes and all the pieces pop out. Well, they had two different groups of people. Actually, no, it was the same group of people, but basically what they did was they allowed them to play it, and basically they had a person that was encouraging them the whole time, telling them like, you can do this, you got this, don't worry. Most of the people completed it on time. Then they put them next to a guy who was sitting there going, oh, you're going to fail at this, you're terrible, et cetera, just all these negative things. And the majority of people didn't do it, completed it in time. And that's life, like if your team is working together, everybody's GG in it, all telling the tanks, oh, you're doing a lot of, good work as a tank on the front line, clearing that space. Healers, I love you. You're doing a great job. DPS, get them. You're killing it right now. You're going to get better results. And it's not always going to work. You can take someone who's just terrible and tell them they're doing a great job all day long, and it's just not going to like change that they're doing terrible. But people will always perform better when they're being encouraged in a positive environment versus if they're being put down or everybody's telling them, oh, you're trash, jump off that character, et cetera, et cetera. So That's like my 2 cents on it. And like I said, I'm not saying this to like put anybody down. That's not what we do here on this channel. I try to give constructive criticism to the masses because it's just something that I see that a lot of people, it's like they feel as if, well, I'm a healer. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to just be healing or support, as people said that I should call it in the comments. But you're not helpless. You know how many times I've gotten MVP as Cloak and Dagger? I've lost count of how many times I've gotten MVP as Cloak and Dagger. As you can see in this video, I have no problem getting eliminations, no problem getting assists, blinding people regularly. Do I make mistakes in this gameplay? Yeah, there's plenty of times. There was a time in the beginning of the video where I chased the Spider-Man around the corner and probably one of my people on my team got eliminated. And that was me being petty because as someone who plays Spider-Man, I take it personal. I'm like, nah, bro, you're getting deleted, man. Don't try to go around that corner 1 health. But at the same time, I ended up coming back and, ulting on the point. And healers are extremely important. Your ult sometimes, you playing Cloak and Dagger and putting that blind on the enemy to give you and your teammates that damage boost for a period of time makes a massive difference. Same thing with any other healer, or support. Sue Storm, Rocket, his ult now is broken. This man gives you a damage buff and he gives you healing. Like, that's what people wanted and they got it. Mantis, her buffs make the difference. When I have a Mantis on the team, a good Mantis, it seems like we just plow through the enemy. No problem. They're constantly giving those buffs. You get that healing over time and stuff like that. Plus, her kit's basically a DPS in my opinion. She does hella damage for a healer or support. Sorry, I'm trying to change it. It's just a force of habit to call healers instead of supports. I'm trying, but I know there's a lot. I know it's like a 50-50 thing. Like I said, I see people all the time like, oh, you should call them supports because they're there to support. And then there's people like, who gets offended that you're called a support? People. That's who. Trust me, I would never even think to say that, but that's what people say. So, like I said, that's just my 2 cents in it. But, let me know in the comments. And like I said, I don't want people to think that the thumbnail's like clickbait. It's just that when I say why the buffs aren't necessarily going to help, it's because, sorry, I had to close the door. My wife's alarm went off. But when I say it's not necessarily going to help, that's only talking about the people who have it locked in their heads that all they're supposed to do is heal and they can just be safe in the back line and that everybody's supposed to just jump and help them. That is nice. That is a perfect world. But you also have to think about it from the fact that 9 times out of 10, unless it's a situation where you're taking over a point or something, when you have to push the car forward or whatever it is in the game, but you're pushing it forward, the tanks are having to create that space so that the team isn't constantly just pushing you back or keeping you at a stalemate, right? A standstill. And the DPS are having to follow behind them and utilize that space they're taking and eliminate the enemy because unfortunately, eliminated opponents don't deal damage anymore, and that's what you want. And the healers should be in the back line, or at least there's a Goldilocks level. You shouldn't be too far away from your teammates, but you also shouldn't be so close that you're standing next eye level to your tanks and stuff. There's a reason why we have certain levels of positioning and stuff. But like I said, the moment that you accept that you're not safe in the back line and you try to think like your enemy, what is my enemy going to do? They're going to try to take out the healers. Isn't that what you want your team to do? Is take out the healers? You know how irritating it is constantly taking down a couple of bars of health only for them to be healed up over again? It's far easier when you just eliminate the healers, and then the damage that the people are taking is going to stay that way. Yeah, some people can get to a health pack, but there's only ever going to be 1 or 2 health packs probably where you are, and they take a moment to respawn and refresh. So everybody's not gonna be able to just run to a health pack, and that's time. Everything that you have to do other than fight, that's time. And in that time, God knows what can happen. You ever had a game where there was like 10 seconds left and the team just, you're like, oh, we got this, is a dub, and everybody just comes out of a Doctor Strange portal with every ult imaginable and just shuts it down? Yeah, so, it is what it is. But like I said, don't sit there and think that because you're a healer that or support that you're helpless, or that when you start seeing divers and stuff on the enemy team, and I know a lot of people might say, well, what about when we have multiple divers? At that point, push them into your team. If you have multiple divers, let's say it's a team where they got a Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Iron Fist. Push them further into your team. That's why it's better to not stay too far away so that you do start getting dived. Use whatever escape ability you have. You're Adam Warlock, I don't know what to tell you at that point. I guess Adam Warlock, he doesn't need escape. He can literally just fully heal himself twice back to back, and then evenly disperse the damage amongst his teammates, right? But use whatever you have in your disposal. And once you get to your team, it's going to be harder for them to specifically dive you if you're hiding behind your tank and moving around and all this kind of stuff. And then that's once the threat is in everyone else's face, they're going to be forced to deal with it instead of it being something that's just happening in the backline. Not everybody has the headset that I have, because me personally, when I'm playing Thor, I can hear stuff going on. I can hear Black Panther doing Black Panther stuff. I can hear Iron Fist punching my supports and stuff. I hear all this. I hear Spider-Man swinging around, and I'm immediately like, turn around, put some pressure on them. They bail out. They're squishies too. They have just as much health as you. They get just as afraid when that health bar drops down. And it's far harder for their team to heal them because they're usually too far away to really get some type of consistent healing, unless it's a situation where you're like on a point or something. But same rules still apply. So that's just my thoughts on it. But let me know what you guys think. Like, what is the perfect amount that they should, or like what should they be doing to healers to really help? Because I know a lot of people, they're still confused in regards to what exactly healers wanted. And really, in my opinion, what healers wanted, and I can't speak for everybody because a lot of people felt a lot of different ways, but for the most part, the thing that I saw most consistently was people saying like, oh, well, we just want the same respect as DPS. We don't want to get blamed every time something goes wrong. And there's a lot of other people that they said, we feel like we're helpless. And that's why I made this video. A lot of people were saying, I felt like we just don't have enough health, or there's no way for us to compete against divers and all this other stuff. But, like I said, I try to be proactive in situations like this versus just sitting there, curling up in the fetal position, putting my thumb in my mouth and going, oh man, what am I going to do? I'm just this helpless little cloak and dagger or invisible woman. No, I'm a threat. Don't push me as cloak and dagger, because I might embarrass you. And it does not always work out that way. Sometimes you're going to take L's. Sometimes you're going to run into people that are better than you. That's fine. Go back, learn from those, say, what could I have done differently? And then try to come back stronger the next day or the next round, if that's what you're doing. But like I said, those are my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments, though, what you guys think. Do you think that the buffs are unnecessary, that we don't need them? Because I know we saw the patch notes the other day, and like I said, they weren't buffing everybody. So let me know in the comments. You guys think they're needed? Do you still think that supports were being crybabies, as some people put it? Do you think that whatever it is that you think, put it in the comments. I love to hear from you guys. Like I say in every video, even when we disagree, we don't think the same way, I'm here for it. This is not a an echo chamber. We're not sitting here just patting each other on the back and going, oh, it's okay, mean DPS being so mean. No, and vice versa. The same thing works for everybody else. If there's something that I can do to help, even if it's a small amount, and I know that this isn't information for like the higher caliber of players. They've already figured this stuff out, which is why they're higher calibers. But that's a very small percentage of the player base. The majority of the player base, once they come across situations like this, they're just kind of, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? This is too much. It's overwhelming. So is what it is. But that's all I got for today. I'm Father Dark. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I appreciate it. Oh, one thing I do want to add before I close the video out. If you're not already in the Discord, join the Discord, because we could be talking about these things in the Discord. We got stages there. It's a community group. We got a nice non-toxic community there. Anybody that does come in there with some toxic stuff that can't express themselves without having to use foul language and all that kind of stuff, we don't do that. I have faith that the majority of you fully understand how to express yourself without having to put other people down or use insults or whatever the case may be. So that's what we do here. And like I said, if you're having a hard time finding the Discord, because there's been a few people that are like, I don't know where the Discord's at. What you have to do is go to my actual page, the actual channel page. Look next to my logo. You'll see where it says more information to the right of it. Click the more information part, and the links are in there. It has my TikTok and my Discord. But I'll be honest with you, TikTok has kind of been on some other stuff lately, so I've been focusing more on YouTube. Plus that you guys have been showing a lot of love, and I really appreciate that. So I've been trying to put more energy into that. But go ahead and click that link. Join the Discord. Plenty of people. If you need an LFG, you just want to get in there and just talk with other like-minded people, discuss stuff, show off whatever your hobbies or talents are. We have a promotion section. So if you're another content creator, you're starting out, or you're just struggling, whatever, and you want to, showcase whatever it is that you got, you can put it all in there. We don't have a problem with any of that stuff in there. So like I said, do that. But yeah, that's all I got. I gotta go pick my kids up from school. But this is Father Dark. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.